Howdy and welcome. I'm Mr. Duran, and today we're going to continue our work on building our platformer game. So where we last left off, our game was functional in the sense that our player now has a death animation, and the game kind of just holds there frozen. You can hit our restart button and the game restarts, but we need to automate this process. And maybe you want to add some text that gets displayed whenever you die. So first, let's address the text getting displayed, because if we implement the game restart automatically whenever the player hits the ground or after some time after they hit the ground, your text message might not be fully displayed. So we're instead going to add the game restart inside the text message itself. So let's go ahead and create a new object. This new object is going to be addressing our ability to display our death message. And so let's go ahead and rename this. This will be obj death message, or obj underscore text death. We want to make sure that we have a constant relation with everything else. The reason why we keep the text in front of it is because this is related to other text. So we want to keep text in the front of it so that way whenever we're done, it pops up next to our text. The reason why we do this is because this will actually be related to that. Its parent is going to be our text object. Let's go back over here, object text. We're going to inherit many of these values, but because of how we're redesigning this to work, we actually need to update a couple of things inside of our text object. Inside here, going to the create, we're going to add a couple of new attributes to keep track of. So inside here, we need to be monitoring our values for what the font is. Font is equal to, in our step event, we just called it font sign. Here, we're gonna reference that. Let me zoom in for y'all. And then update to reference font where we previously had it hard coded. There, and then I believe in the draw text here. Okay, now that we have updated that element, I believe that's all we need to update within this, and this object is good. We can return back to our actual text death. For our create event, we're going to inherit these values and add to it. So I'm going to inherit it, and immediately afterwards, I need to update a couple of values. I'm going to update my text to now be equal to, rather than the default thing that we have in there, I'm going to say you died. Semicolon, I'm also going to add in the recalculation for the length. Length is going to be equal to string underscore length of our text. And then we need to make sure that our font is going to be equal to whatever our new font is set to. So and we're going to set our font to, rather than being what it previously was set at as font sign, I'm going to create a new font, font death. So let's go ahead and define that value up above, under fonts, create new font. And this will be font underscore death. And I'm going to just arbitrarily pick one. Please do more effort than I am doing here for your game. Let's see, all of these look bad. Okay, that's good enough. And I'm going to set this to be fairly large at 60. Now that should be good enough. Close that out. And going back to our object for text death, this now exists, and so this is good to go. The last two things we need to specify is our X and Y value for where it gets displayed. This death text is going to appear whenever we die, but I want to make sure that it appears in the correct location. Object underscore text is created after you get to the signpost. The signpost tells it where to appear. Here, I don't want to have to tell it where to appear. I'm just going to tell it inside of here, that information, rather than whatever creates it. So it's going to be X is equal to clamp, because I want to force it within these bounds of obj underscore wherever our player dead is at. Wherever the dead player is, this text will pop up, .x. Then I need to get my camera view camera underscore get underscore view. And the height, or no, this is the X value. So this is width of the camera. We're referencing camera 0, divide that by 2 to have it centered. Then we're going to get our room width minus camera underscore get width again, get view width. Again, referencing camera 0 and divide that by 2. So now I have the X values are stuck between wherever the player is, the width of it is, and then this. So given our current location, it can be no smaller than half of the screen and no greater than the edge minus half the screen. Now that we have that set up for X, Y is actually going to be effectively the same thing, but changed around for the purpose of referencing height rather than width. Height again. And then rather than referencing X, we're going to reference Y. With that, we now have specified the text that we're going to say. It recalculates the length. What is the font? And then where it can appear on the screen. It'll try to be wherever the player currently is, but slightly modified based off of different attributes to make sure it's not too close to one of the edges, because I need the entire thing to be displayed. Kind of ruins the fun if half of the message is cut off because you died too close to the edge of the screen. This forces it into the middle. Now that we have the text message created, let's go ahead and jump into where we actually create this within the game. Now we can jump back over to where our player dies. Our player dies here, and it is whenever we say done, that is the moment that the dead player has hit the ground and flipped over to the last frame to show the crumbled up version. We have a couple of options. We could display the text here, or we can display the text as soon as the dead player is created. I'm going to display the text here. So I'm going to just have instance underscore create layer, and we're going to specify it's just going to be here, X and Y. This doesn't matter because we later reassign it within the create event for the dead text. What layer do we place this on? I'm going to place it on the same layer I'm currently in. And then most importantly, what object am I creating? And this is where I'm going to reference obj underscore text death. Now, whenever we die, the death text gets displayed. Let's just see what that looks like right now. Ideally, if I typed everything correctly, this should be functional. We jumped into here. We're in the testing room. We're slowly getting hit. And there we go. You died. It forces it into the center of the room. And so if I die, let me get past him. And there we go. Now that we're past or closer towards the center of the room, it actually centers off of the player. And then finally, if I were to die at the very edge, let's see how far I can get before they kill me. And it continues following it. But if I got all the way to the right side, it'll push it closer towards the left. You can play around with those values to see what you want to do. But right now, as soon as we press anything, the text disappears and we still lie there dead. Let me get killed again. You died, I hit. We still have the same way that we interact with the sign. Pressing any key erases the text. We need to add to that, pressing any key also restarts the game. So let's jump back into our death text. And going down below here, we can then specify in our draw text, or let's see, building text. Yes, in our step event, here it destroys as soon as we have pressed anything at all. We need to add to this a few values. So first, I'm going to copy all of this because I want to keep this, but I want to add inside of this portion some new instructions. And so we're going to override this, paste it back in, and I'm going to add one change. Right after we destroy ourselves, or right before it, I'm going to make sure I restart the game. So how do we restart the game? Well, we can simply check how we restart the game traditionally. Here in room restart, that code, it's just slide transition. We switch to the transition mode to room restart, and we're restarting our current room. So if we hop back over to here right before we destroy ourselves, or actually right after, I then simply do the transition mode to restart my current room. Let's go ahead and see if this achieves our goal. And so again, this is a benefit of having built up a lot of these functions early on. You don't have to worry about rewriting chunks of code. You can either copy them in, or you have functions that you can call that does it for you. And so we slowly get hit over and over again. You died, I hit this, game has restarted. We now have implemented a death message and game restart. There's a couple of other flavorful things that you can add to the player death. Some of y'all have mentioned like a slow motion, or perhaps other events, or even sound. All of those extra flourish that we'll have, that'll be covered in an end of the project quick video of small things that you can add to it. One of those small things will be how to implement slow motion to have the player dramatically die. But until then, that's all I have for this video. If you have any questions or need any assistance, just let me know. Otherwise, everyone have a good one.